Jesus told his disciples a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? No disciple is superior to the teacher, but when fully trained, every disciple will be like his teacher. Why do you notice the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not perceive the wooden beam in your own? How can you say to your brother, "Brother, let me remove that splinter in your eye," when you do not even notice the wooden beam in your own eye? You hypocrite. Remove the wooden beam from your eye first, then you will see clearly to remove the splinter in your brother's eye. A good tree does not bear rotten fruit, nor does a rotten tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its own fruit. For people do not pick figs from thorn bushes, nor do they gather grapes from brambles. A good person out of the store of goodness in his heart produces good, but an evil person out of the store of evil produces evil. For from the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I'm going to begin my appeal for the annual Catholic Appeal in what may appear to be left field by asking, how did Old Testament Joseph, whose brothers left him in a pit for dead, who was sold in Egypt as a slave, eventually win the favor of Pharaoh and flourish in the midst of calamity? We do not need to speculate. Some 20 years later, the roles were reversed. Joseph as the strong one, his brothers as the weak ones. They came to him in dread. They feared he would settle the score and throw them into a pit of his own making. But Joseph didn't. And his explanation is where we find his inspiration. Even though you meant me harm, God meant it for good, to achieve his present end, the survival of many people. In God's hands, intended evil becomes eventual good. The eventual good that will come from the intended evil of the crisis in the church is this. While the limelight is shining on the church, as well it should be, the church will pave the way to end the societal epidemic of the sexual abuse of minors. USA Today's February 22nd article, entitled "How the Crisis of Catholic Priests Sexually Abusing Minors Mirrors Society at Large," fleshes out this point. Since the 2002 Dallas Charter, there has been only 0.004% of credible cases reported. For our diocese, that was 2 in 17 years. Enforcing the Dallas Charter is funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal. Every year since I've been at St. Mary the Lakes, the annual Catholic Appeal has met with generous success thanks to you. Last year was no exception. Even though the Faith Committed Mountains campaign was happening, St. Mary the Lakes raised, not just pledged, but raised $155,405, or 111% of goal, and we received a parish rebate of $29,400. Our goal this year is again $139,600 towards a diocesan goal of $7 million. Now, with settlements in the current church crisis looming, the $7 million is restricted, and by that I mean it cannot be used for any other purpose but to fund the corporal and the spiritual works of mercy that are highlighted in the video that we will watch in a minute. Any settlement money needed will come from insurance, because priests have malpractice insurance just like other professionals have insurance, and the sale of property. So, for example, if a parish were to close and the property were to be sold, that money could be used towards settlements. However, given the current crisis, I know that some have already decided that they won't be giving this year, and yet the demand from those who receive our corporal and spiritual works will not be any less. To quote today's gospel, the corporal and spiritual works of mercy performed by the church is by and large the good fruit that comes from the church's tree. So, we will still have as many poor to feed, clothe, and shelter, as many adults and children to teach, as many who are sick, in prison, or shut in, who will need a hand to hold. The annual Catholic Appeal also funds our Office of Child and Youth Protection, which has been in existence since the Dallas Charter was enacted in 2002, and St. Mary of the Lakes is a poster parish for compliance. Our practices and policies comply 100% of the time every year. So if one were to decide not to give, well then, starting in left field with the example of Joseph, it's a little closer to home. Remember, just a few generations after Joseph, Pharaoh forgot Joseph, enslaved Joseph's Israelite descendants, decided to provide no straw, but expected the tally of bricks not to be one brick less. Those of us who believe the corporal and spiritual works of the church are the church's good fruit